So I'd like to thank everyone who is joining me today. My name is Rose DiNardo, and I am the Assistant Director in the E-Learning and now Academic Support Services Division. Today we are going to discuss inclusive teaching, strategies for promoting equity in the college classroom. So hopefully everyone can hear me. For those that can't, they will be able to read this and troubleshoot. But if somebody could just let me know in the chat that I am coming through okay, I would really appreciate that. Oh, awesome. I got some thumbs up. Perfect. So here is today's agenda. I'm going to keep it very simple because I really feel that this is a topic where we can all learn and share and communicate with one another. So I'm going to keep it very simple. First, we're going to talk about why inclusive teaching and define it. Then we're going to talk about inclusive teaching as it pertains to your course design and syllabus, then course delivery, and then reflection and documentation. And then, of course, we have our Let's Share portion and what I like to refer to as our odds and ends section that I do in every workshop and webinar. Now, as you can see, we do have the Let's Share portion of the meeting. However, if at any time you have any questions or comments, I do encourage you to either use the chat or, unmute yourself or, let me know in some way that you want to interject something during the webinar. So the first thing we want to talk about is understanding inclusive teaching. So I think in order to start this section, I wanted to just go over our mission that can be found on our college website. And as you can see, there's certain words that I have highlighted in red. So Camden County College is a learning community committed to the success of our diverse student population in achieving their full academic, career, and personal potential while delivering a high quality, inclusive, affordable, and accessible education. So I'm sure you are all familiar with the mission, but I just kind of wanted to start off by reiterating it because I think that it's very important to this topic. So when we think about what we do here and looking at this particular slide, we see that we were all about access. We wanted to make sure that we provided an affordable education. We wanted to make sure that education at Camden County College was accessible to all students, and we've done that. And we've been working on the success piece, increasing our retention, increasing graduation rates. But as you can see, there is some kind of missing link going on here. So let's talk about that. When I was doing my research, I loved this particular quote. A diverse population does not mean a learning environment is automatically inclusive. And this is very important because we do know we have a very diverse population here at Camden County College. That diversity continues to grow and expand, but that doesn't mean that our courses, our services are all inclusive to all of our learners. So what we have to do, and we know that we have all been working on social justice committees and really incorporating and looking at our policies and our practices through a DEI lens. And this does lend itself to the inclusive teaching, of course, because inclusion is part of it. So when we talk about diversity in an educational setting, we mean to provide educational access for all individuals, regardless of their races, ethnicities, religions, abilities, genders, and sexual orientation. The equity piece is to provide an equitable access to education and resources to all our learners. And we also want to make sure that we're inclusive by providing a culture in which all learners feel welcome, safe, and valued. And that's really the heart of the inclusive teaching pedagogy that we're going to discuss today. Here was another quote. I didn't want to rewrite exactly what inclusive pedagogy was, because I felt that this statement right here really defined it and says it all. So inclusive pedagogy is a student-centered approach to teaching that engages the wealth of intersecting social identities and positionalities that all students bring to the classroom. It must not be an afterthought. Rather, it should permeate every aspect of curriculum and course design, classroom management, and assessment of teaching and learning. And that's how we're going to break down the presentation today. We're going to talk about inclusive teaching in the design portion as well as in the delivery portion, and then also self-reflection and plans for the future. So as we go on, we really want to think about what the benefits of inclusive teaching are to our students. They could develop stronger skills. There is evidence of less absenteeism when students feel welcomed and included. It can increase their self-esteem. And with other students, it promotes tolerance and empathy because they're learning from the environment that you have created in the classroom and how they see you model and teach other students. It meets the needs of all learners, not just those who might be from, say, a low socioeconomic area or have different religious backgrounds or disabilities. When you design an inclusive course, it really benefits all the learners. And then I love this last line that I had seen. It makes differences less different. All right, so let's talk about what it means to create with inclusive teaching in mind. So it's not about you, it's about them. And I really kind of took this quote to heart, and I started thinking about my syllabus and things that happened during the course of the semester. And I'm guilty of some of the things that I'm going to bring up in this presentation. For example, when something happens in a semester, I tweak my syllabus to make sure that it doesn't happen again because I want to head it off. But am I doing it for me or am I doing it for my students? And so that quote kind of resonated with me a bit. So we all know that the syllabus sets the tone of your course. It sets the tone of the semester. And when you're thinking of creating an inclusive teaching practice and strategies, when you're drafting your syllabus, you want to make sure that that syllabus conveys a sense of support. And we're going to look at examples later of some language that you can use to do this. You want your syllabus to convey respect and commitment to the student and their success. You want to have clear messages on what the students need to succeed in this course, what your expectations are for them. And you also want to value their experiences and what they can bring to the course. It's not a one-sided course. The students have to be involved in the educational process. So, other things that you have to consider and be prepared for when creating an inclusive syllabus, when creating an inclusive environment, is religious and cultural observations. How are you going to handle different holidays that you may not celebrate or that the college may not be closed for? What happens? How are you going to handle different points of view when discussions come up in a face-to-face setting or in a chat board discussion? How do you address mental health issues among students? What kind of accommodations are you going to make for students with disabilities? And how are you going to handle office hours? And I noticed in my research, this was something that was sort of prevalent because a lot of students don't understand why they should attend office hours, when they should attend office hours. So this can be something that you want to really expand on in your syllabus, especially for first generation students. You want to make them feel welcome to the office hours and explain how you can help them. When we're thinking about inclusive course content, we want to use inclusive language. And I do have a slide where I'm going to show you some examples of inclusive and non-inclusive language. You want to make sure that when you're curating your materials, they reflect diversity, not only in source, but in opinion. You want to, if you want to acknowledge the limitations on demographic representation of those course materials. I know I have heard, some faculty discuss, their textbooks and how they are not representative of our student population. So you would want to acknowledge that. And when you are curating those materials, you want to avoid stereotypes in the course content that you choose. So here's some examples of inclusive language. And instead of coming up with my own, I saw this in Stanford University website, and I thought that it was a really good slide to put in. So cold, or what we would consider non-inclusive language, would be if you need to contact me outside of class. Okay. The more inclusive way to say it was, I welcome you to contact me outside of class. So you can see that there is a little difference in the tone and the welcoming of the student in that different way. Another example is students are required to attend all course sessions. Very direct, very concise. But you might want to consider something like, we highly encourage students to attend all live lectures, but we will also be posting recordings to Canvas for students who cannot attend. Another one is, some of the skills you should learn in this course include. And then the other way of saying that is, some of the skills I hope you will learn throughout the course include. And then finally, late work will be penalized by 50%, as opposed to late work is still eligible for 50% partial credit. And that last one I actually use myself in my discussion boards, because I found that if I just said, you're going to get a point deduction if you don't post the initial post, I was like, okay, well, then students just weren't posting it. But when I said to them, you could still earn at least 5 points, I found that students actually started responding more to that. And even if they post it late, they still post it and responded to that initial post. So, does anybody have any other language that they might want to share, maybe something that they've changed in their own syllabus or course design? Elena, I see you're off mute. Did you want to share something?
You mentioned about the office hours. I know in the workshop that Martine and Elise had done, they had one of the things they had suggested was that they had seen was to change from office hours to student hours, letting them know that that's the time we have set aside specifically to meet with you, and that, and have you come. That's why we're there. And I thought that was just a real quick change, but did make a big difference in terms of what my availability was and why I was there. So I don't know that I'd say more students have taken advantage of it, but that was a quick language thing that I thought was a good one.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Martine, I see that you're off mute. Would you like to
No,
share something?
I just want to respond to that. It's true if you just say that that is the time that you have set aside for them. So they don't think, oh, you're in your office to do your work, but so I like that. I also use student hours.
Yes, yes. And another thing, and I know a lot of our faculty do this here, is that they not only have physical office hours, but they also now accommodate students via virtual conferencing as well, which helps out for our students who, might work during the day and need evening office hours, or maybe they have their children at home and they can't come, and bring their kids with them, or have transportation issues. So I know that a lot of faculty do that as well, which is wonderful. So course design is one piece of the puzzle, a very important piece, of course, and it's one, especially when we're talking in e-learning about online course design, we always encourage students, or I'm sorry, encourage faculty to put as much as they can in the design portion to help the students. And I always say be proactive instead of reactive to the students as well, especially those who might have different learning styles, or might need accommodations down the road. For myself, I have a self-evaluation assignment in the orientation session, and I changed two of my questions. And one question I added, which I've gotten very interesting responses this semester, is what is something that is unique about you that you want to share? And then the second question is, what what do I need to know about how you learn? How can I help you learn better in my course? And I realized that this particular semester, I have many more visual learners. And so what I did that weekend after I read those responses is I went and I looked for more videos that strengthen the concepts that I'm going to teach them, so that they have that additional resource to look at. So I really was impressed by the things that the students shared with me in those two responses. Yes, Dorothy? You're muted, Dorothy.
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Go
So
ahead.
you made me think of this when you just talked about the one question. I'm doing Partners in Learning this semester with Nancy Raftery, and part of that is to speak to her students, and she speaks to my students. And when we did that, we also gave them a handout, and we just asked them 3 questions. Number 1 was, name one thing that I do, a classroom practice or something I do when I'm teaching that helps you. Number 2, name one thing you wish that I would do in this class that helps you. And number 3, name one classroom practice or activity that happens in another class that helps you. And we do that in about mid-semester, and tell the students that we're doing it then, so that we have time to make some changes. So, instead of a big long thing with a lot of questions, we just ask those 3 questions, and we get good feedback from that. So my point is to just, I like what you said, just keep it simple, keep the question simple.
Yes, I love that. I love those things. One of the other things, and we're going to talk about reflection and feedback, but if you notice, I believe our survey is more geared towards a lot of um, the materials, the textbook, not so much, how do I want to put this, their learning experience. And I think that that's something that I used to use that in my online classes, and now I just do a small final thoughts discussion with my students instead of having them do a long standardized survey. And I get so much better feedback from my students that I can actually incorporate their suggestions and their feedback for the future students in other semesters. So let's talk about inclusive practices. And I've broken this down into 3 different sections. And the first one in course delivery, is a positive social presence. And I know for those of you who teach online, we always talk about creating a social presence and fostering a sense of community. So this not only applies to online classes, but it applies to, you know, face-to-face classes, hybrid classes, high flex classes. Regardless of what modality you teach, you want to create a positive social presence. And part of that is recognizing the diversity of your student population. That's very important. And you want to respect student identities and learn more, keep yourself informed. I know, you know, there's so many changes, so many different things going on. You know, just using a student's pronouns, you know, can make the big difference in how they feel in your class, whether they feel welcomed. You know, even pronouncing their name correctly makes a big difference. You want to foster a supportive classroom climate. And again, this isn't just about you behaving in a certain way to foster that climate, but you modeling it for the other students in the class as well. And then monitoring those student interactions to see how the students are responding and if they are also creating a supportive environment for one another and heading off any issues. Affirming teacher behaviors, prioritizing student well-being was something that came up in my research quite a bit. Being aware of their needs, being aware of what they're going through so that you can, you know, maybe offer guidance, point them to the right services if needed. You want to be compassionate, generous, and flexible to their needs. I will say I am the flexible is something I have to work on as in my teaching practices. I'm a stickler for my rules, and that's very difficult for me. And you know, so that's something that I have to myself work on. This one is really important. Notice early warning signs of student distress. And I know, you know, mental health is a big issue, and on campus we are, you know, working to I believe there's a position for a mental health counselor, but keeping up to date how to recognize those signs when a student's, you know, in academic distress or emotional distress, and getting them the support that they need. You want to check in with your students regularly. I know people are going to say this is easier in a face-to-face class than an online class. But I think that you can check in regularly with your students regardless of the modality. I like to send encouraging messages to them. Every 5 weeks, I do like a progress report with them. I let them know where they're standing in the course right now. I let them know where they need to work on, and what's coming up that they can do to elevate their grade. And I do that regardless of whether it's a student who has a D or a student that has a B. You know, if you're a B or an A student, I tell you how you can make that B to an A. If you're an A student, what you can do to keep it there. And you want to model, again, this came up in this social presence, you want to model inclusive behavior for students because they're going to see how you react to, you know, different students, different viewpoints, and they're going to hopefully model your behavior. Promoting student support resources. This is very important. You want to encourage your students to reach out if they have issues. I had a student who, he was an A student, and halfway through the semester, he just disappeared. I noticed that he didn't submit a few things, and all of a sudden, you know, and he was going to fail because one of them was a big assignment. So he didn't reach out to me. He didn't say anything to me. And I reached out to him, and he told me what his issues were, and I was able to work with him and get him through the end of the semester because of that, and he passed with an A. But had I not, checked in with him, he would have just, failed the class and possibly have, not returned. So just those little things. But again, you can encourage students in the beginning by setting the tone in your syllabus, but you can also throughout your interactions with them, encourage them to reach out to you as well. You want to let your students know what resources we have at the college that are available to them. And if possible, especially for those students who are, the first person in their family to go to college, maybe you can help them, guide them to those appropriate services. Maybe if say they had an e-learning issue, maybe send an email to e-learning and copy the student so that, we know ahead of time what to expect, what the student's issues are. And then, we can work together as a team to help the student make it through and resolve whatever issues they are. Does anybody want to comment on this slide before I keep going? No? Okay. Again, you can interject at any moment. So I'm a very big person on reflecting. I like to reflect, every decade of my life. Every 10 years, I like to take a big reflection. Every semester, I like to reflect on how it went, how my interactions with the students went, what I need to do, what I need to change going further. And that's really another big portion of inclusive teaching, is taking the time to reflect back on what has occurred this last semester, this last year. Inclusive teaching is really about continuous improvement. And some of the ways that you can do that are getting feedback from your students. You can survey your students about their learning experience. You can do like I do and do a discussion board. The only issue there is that it's not anonymous. However, I've never actually had a problem with students, telling me what they think in the discussion board. You could do a anonymous survey in Canvas. I will tell you though that the survey portion of Canvas may not continue with Canvas once they switch from classic quizzes to new quizzes. However, they keep, changing informational new quizzes, but there is a feature in Canvas in the quiz section where you can do surveys, and you could do a graded or an ungraded survey. I like to do the graded survey, and I put in a point value, and when the students take the survey, the system knows who the student is and the system awards them the points, but I don't know which student has done the survey. You want to recognize and address any microaggressions when interacting with students. So you might want to reflect back. If you are teaching an online course or hybrid course, you might want to look back at the chat boards and look at your interactions with students and see if there's anything that you may need to work on in the future. You want to improve your understanding of students, and this is a continuous process. I just saw something about, it's called liquid learning, where you're just constantly having to learn new information, and it's just important to keep up with our students, keep up with their needs, and to understand because they do change, and we have to change with them. And then you want to develop a plan for your continuous improvement. And so, like I said, for myself, it always happens at the end of the semester. I like to, well, during the semester, I take notes as I go along. And at the end of the semester, I just kind of reflect back on the course and I see, what steps I need to take, what I need to do. And then prior to the start of the next semester, I make those changes in my course, in my syllabus, in my behavior towards my students. All right, so I want to open it up. So this is your time to share. So we have a couple options here. So you can share an example of inclusive teaching that you use in your class, or you can ask questions, share comments. You can use the chat if you want, but I do encourage you to just unmute yourself and talk. Okay, Allison, I see you're unmuted. Would you like to share something?
Oh, I didn't really have anything to say. You just said unmute, so I unmuted. I'm very obedient, Rose. No,
Well,
but
I appreciate that.
I have just such a perfect course for inclusion and for the celebration of everyone's cultural and ethnic differences, their faiths, because to teach public speaking is the ideal place to celebrate everyone. And it does indeed when they share a recipe from their culture or a temple at which they worship, or a sari that they celebrate in. It brings everyone closer, and everyone's always fascinated.
Excellent. Yes, I agree. I agree. I enjoy the speeches, and I enjoy seeing what students are going to share.
Allison, it's Jamie Vona. I agree with everything you said except for your obedience.
I'm naughty.
You are.
Anyone else want to share something? Dorothy?
So you talked about, so one thing about being inclusive, Hodazaka gave me some really good advice, because I said that, you know, I wanted to know more about my students who were not born in this country, about what math is like, but I didn't really know how to approach it. Just said, Dorothy, just keep it simple. Ask them, what's a math class look like in your country? What was a math class? Tell me something that is the same about a math class in your country, and tell me something that is different about a math class in your country. Or can you show me a notation that is different? And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It can just be one thing. It can just be showing interest in that. And also mentioning in different ways that you understand that the people in your class are doing many different things. So saying, you know, I give the homework and I give you a week to do it, because I realize that some of you only have time to do your homework over the weekend because of your schedules. Just to sort of, just to say that you understand that you have, you know, many students in your class who have other responsibilities other than school. And it doesn't mean you have to not have standards. It just means that you have to have standards that have some flexibility and allow people who, you know, have a lot of other responsibilities to get the work done.
Exactly. So one of the things I do when I teach online is I run my classes, my weeks, my modules from Tuesday to Monday. And it was something that I had done some research on, and it really works out well because, like you said, most students are doing their work, you know, Saturday and Sunday. So this allows for the students to have until Monday. That way, if they've encountered technical issues, or they're, you know, they want to send me a question because they need clarification, you know, they have that extra time, and they don't have to then end up like, oh, I'm not going to get in touch with her. It's Sunday, or there's nobody, you know, to answer my technical support questions, and then they just don't do the assignment. This way they have that extra day to get that information and succeed in the work. Anyone else? Well, while you are all thinking about things that you want to share with me, I'm going to start my odds and ends section
Chris,
because
one thing,
yes,
apologize, my camera is not working right. Whenever I turn my camera on, the volume gets all shaky. So I apologize that my camera's not on.
that's
One
okay.
of
You
the
have a
things-
very lovely picture showing.
Aw, thank So one of the things that I do is if a student needs an extra day for an assignment, I
Mhm.
often think about it and I'm like, if that student needs an extra day, could I have maybe put two assignments too close together? Are they the only one? Could everybody be having a problem? So if I extend the date by a day for one student, I do it for the whole
Mhm.
class.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and the whole class, they appreciate that, but so they
Mhm.
never feel like anybody's getting special treatment. Because if I
Right.
do it for one, I do it for all.
Yes.
Well, I think we can also support each other in teaching not to teach to deadline,
Mhm.
but rather to space the work out over the period of time that the assignment's available, whether it's online or face-to-face. That if you've got 8 days to do it, then you should take advantage of the 8 days and
Mhm.
pop a half hour here and another half hour there, and to do little bits of it when you can. Because they'll be cramming in the last 15 minutes before the actual deadline is, and it shows in the work. And it's not good for them, and it's not good for us, and it's not good for the learning process.
Mhm. One of the things that I try to do with that, especially with the preparation outlines that the students have to create, is as we break down the different assignments, first we do the topic and the specific purpose. And I'm like, okay, after we've brainstormed and you've put it in the assignment and I've graded it, now you should be adding it to your Word document. And then I do that with each portion as we work on it so that they know, like, let me just add it to my document now and keep building off of it. And it's actually helped out quite a bit.
But they still wait to the very last
Oh,
minute
of course, of course.
to submit that introduction and conclusion,
Yes.
which is unfortunate. One of the things that I've done is I've started with the online courses to include in the welcome module an assignment schedule that shows the entirety of the time that the assignment is open, because the calendar isn't helpful with that. It only shows the day it
No.
closes.
Right. All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, I am going to start my odds and ends. But again, if you think of something that you want to discuss, please jump in. So one of the things I like to do is remind everybody or let you know if you weren't aware what e-learning can do for you. If you are using Canvas as a supplemental tool in your face-to-face classes, we can help you figure out how to use more of the features, how to incorporate it in your class instead of just using it as a grade book. If you are interested in creating a new online or hybrid course for a future semester, we can also assist you in guiding you through the building of that course. And a lot of people don't realize that if you have an existing course on Canvas, we are always happy to take a look at it. If you are in the mood to, tweak your course a bit, revamp it a little, maybe learn more about functions that you're not using. For the first two, you could just give us a call. For the third one, we do ask that you send us an email and let us know that it is okay for us to review your course and go into your course, because we do not do that without your permission. So we do like you to send us an email giving us permission to look at your course and make suggestions for you. So what kind of support is available to you? Well, a lot of you know that we have Canvas support. Canvas support can be found within your Canvas account. There are the search guides that they have, which I actually like quite a bit, especially because a lot of them have videos attached to them. And the videos are very up to date. You also have the option of doing a support hotline, or my favorite, the live chat. What I like about the live chat, besides the fact that I can multitask, is that they send you a transcript. And if they've provided links to anything, videos, guides that maybe I had trouble finding, they send you the chat and you can save that message. Canvas is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. They even had somebody there on Christmas. So you can always reach them. Now, e-learning is here to support you too, but we are not as accessible as Canvas 24/7, although some of us do have a bad habit of responding to things in the evenings or maybe even 3 a.m. You might get an email from one of us, but we do have a shared email address that you see on the screen, elearning@camdencc.edu, and that actually all 4 of us have access to that. So you can know that one of us is going to get back to you. We also now have a shared division line, which you may not know, 4220. That rings all 4 of our phones, which is, quite fun. And we are available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. And of course, during the summer, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. And here we all are, in case you haven't stopped in to see us, or you didn't, know who we are. We have Dr. Patrick Chad, who is the Dean of e-learning and Academic Support Services Division. There I am, the second one, the Assistant Director. Many of you probably know Ginny McGee. She's our instructional designer, and she's usually your first point of contact. And our newest member, who has actually been here with us for a year, is Rich Cummings, our program technician. We have a lot of upcoming professional development coming up in April, and then one in May as well. So next week, I will be doing a webinar on intentional tech, when to use it, when to lose it. So I hope you would consider joining me then as well. Rich is going to be doing a transitioning to new quizzes in Canvas on April 11th. That's going to be at 2 p.m., which is a different time slot for us. Ginny's going to be doing 7 pillars of accessibility, a very important topic, on April 20th. I'm up again on April 24th with creating and managing rubrics in Canvas. It's actually a very underutilized feature. And so it was something that was discussed on opening day, and I wanted to do a webinar on it for everybody. Dr. Patrick Chad is going to talk about learner-centered course design at the end of the month. And then for those of you who are not familiar with our Heart Classrooms, I'm actually going to be in the Heart Classroom on May 3rd at 3:30, doing a presentation in the Heart Classroom about what it is and how to use it, and how you can learn how to use it. And that particular presentation you can attend in person or via Zoom. More information to follow. And then, of course, my references for today's presentation. Today's presentation is going to be posted in the Canvas Faculty Hub in case anyone is interested in reviewing any information, or if any of our colleagues have missed out today, you can let them know that they can view it there. Before I go, does anybody have anything else that they would like to say, add, anything?
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Well, then if nobody has anything else for me, I am going to thank you once again for taking an hour out of your time to join me this afternoon. And I hope you have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Rose,
you, Lily.
could I talk to you for 1 second off when you stop the recording?
Sure, sure.